All right. Hello, everybody. So I'm here recording a masterclass on trauma and money. And the intention of this is to bring awareness to how we relate to money, our worthiness, how we feel about ourselves, our survival mechanisms, the stories that we create around money, and what has potentially been stored in our body that is not necessarily truth. And so whenever I teach about money, I always go back to childhood. Money is really interesting because there are a lot of stories that have been put into our systems. And when I say our systems, I'm speaking specifically industrialization, what happened with, all of the colonization that took place. This something is better than another in terms of understanding and deciphering value. And then also worthiness. This is like childhood stuff around, your value for being versus your value for doing, and what was like potentially ingrained into your relationship to your self-worth internally. So if you grew up, for instance, in a household where you get a lot of praise for scoring high in a test, or excelling at a sport, or being able to perform or do things, work, and not enough praise for simply being you, for showing up, for being a member of your family, of your class, and belonging, and the safety of the belonging, the safety of the identification that way. You may have a distorted relationship around how you feel about your worth and how you perceive others perceiving you. So this is one of those things that's really, really important for us to put into perspective. So the way I define somatics is really expansive. One of the elements that I look at when we're speaking about somatics and somatic expression is understanding the viewer. So if you walk into a room and everybody in the space is praising you, the way you show up somatically in your body, your feelings, your sensations, the way you move, the energy you carry, is going to be extremely different if you walked into a room where everyone is criticizing you or judging you. You may shrink. Your thoughts would change, the way you carry yourself would change. You may even be disassociated, disconnected from yourself, your body, and even the moment. And so understanding that how you grew up, and understanding the relationship of how you view yourself and how others have viewed you around worth really influences your relationship to money. So if you grew up, for instance, in a situation in your childhood where it was ingrained that you are treated like a prince or princess, and all of your needs were catered for, and you didn't have to think about it, wasn't even something like that would cross your mind. Everything was always abundantly available, and love and praise for being you, and celebration of your innate worthiness. Your relationship to money becomes very secure. So people talk about attachment styles, right? And the way that I teach and work on healing trauma is, what kind of attachment do you have to money? What is your relationship like to money in your bank accounts? Do you cringe when you think about logging on to your banking? Do you contract when you withdraw money from an ATM machine? Do you avoid handling bills and are avoidant of them, or potentially postpone and postpone until like it's like you're almost at the very end and people are chasing you down for money, like, okay, here you go. That means that you have an unsecure, insecure attachment, unsecure and insecure attachment to money. You don't have secure attachment. And this is where we're wanting to, one, bridge that relationship to whatever happened in your childhood. So somebody today told me, he was like, Madge, I think you understand this. He's like, I did this NLP training years ago, like 15 years ago. And there was this one statement that I never truly understood until I kind of stumbled across this body of work, that it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And I was like, of course. Because what we do with TVM is we go and we rewire your childhood memories. We go in and we change the neurotransmitters and the coding of the childhood memory. And in essence, what that does is when we change the childhood memories and we recode them, we literally upgrade and optimize your nervous system. Because whatever happened in terms of the programming in your childhood sets the tone for you, how your nervous system operates for the rest of your life. So yeah, we're going into that. We're going to go into that in this masterclass together. And understanding how we relate to money right now, we relate to our self-worth. And here's the one that I think is really, really big and is super profound, that I personally found that this wound, the money wound, the money trauma, is heavily connected to your fawning or people-pleasing wound. If you have one, you more than likely have the other, and vice versa. So I find it extremely hard to see people who have a lot of financial success and a healthy relationship to money, and also are people pleasers or fawners. They don't normally go hand in hand. And one of the things that I've found in fawning, and there's another masterclass around fawning, but I'm just going to kind of scratch the surface of that right now, is that it comes from this perspective or desire to survive, right? And the anticipation is always, how am I going to navigate myself to the next moment and then the next moment? And you're kind of 1 or 2 steps ahead of the threat or the prediction of that threat in your fawning response. So for instance, if you were in a dynamic, a relationship, like a narcissistic, people pleaser, empath dynamic, someone who's really self-centered and someone who likes to serve and is really wanting to keep the peace. More often than not, that's fawning, people pleasing. And the people pleaser in this dynamic is already anticipating what that narcissist is going to do 2 or 3 steps ahead of whatever is potentially going to happen. And they're always anticipating the worst. So they're always preparing for, like, oh, this could happen, and this could happen, and this could happen, and these things are not good. They're not favorable, and they're scary. And what can I do to navigate myself so I don't have to, end up in this wrathful potential anger, projection, or a fight, or love being withdrawn from me. And it's this navigation of how can I very intelligently manipulate the manipulation that I'm experiencing, that is really unhealthy, that is really contracting, and survive it. And so it comes with the territory of, I don't have my boundaries in the right place. My boundaries are not solid. I don't know how to communicate them. I don't know what they are within myself. I may have never experienced healthy boundaries, because potentially if you have people pleasing, trauma and fawning tendencies, more often than not, you were probably pushed into situations as a child that you never wanted to participate in. You may have been told that love is extremely conditional, and being loved is not necessarily a survivable event. This is a threat to the system. And so there's no such thing as real love. It's actually survival. And we're acting. So I have to do these things in order for me to be loved or liked or accepted and move on to the next state of my being, which is like, I have shelter, no one's yelling at me. I have food being provided. I'm not being punished. Things are not being taken away from me. No one's really potentially spending time with you, teaching you what to do. And the innate knowing within yourself that you are a sovereign free being is really tainted. You don't know that you are truly sovereign and free. And that's where that deep fawning, people pleasing comes from. It's this effort or attempt to survive a moment by moment in anticipation of what could potentially go really wrong, and then try to mitigate that, try to have, you know, a preemptive action and behavior in anticipation of things going really bad. And these are the same tendencies that will get adults into toxic relationships later on. They really stem from childhood. And so again, we see research shows us that if you have an ACEs score in childhood trauma, then more often than not, you're going to have issues with money. And so this is another thing, is a person that, you know, trains trauma transformation and nervous system optimization. And, you know, we have an entire institute, and who's attracted to this work and wants to do it? People who have experienced adverse experiences, trauma, and they become some of the most challenging groups of people to work with, because what we know is that if you're in a trauma response, or you have PTSD or CPTSD, you have inflammation in the part of your brain that processes information. So your lens of perception around the world is using the filter of that anticipation of threat. So there's that inflammation, hyperactivation happening there. And what we lose is this access to the part of our brain that allows us to make good decisions, evaluate risk, and even express ourselves in a really authentic manner. Our truest personality comes from here. And so it makes it really hard, because what research shows us and statistics show us is that more often than not, people don't have a healthy relationship with money if they've experienced trauma. They can't make the best decisions. So it makes it really challenging even to get people signed up sometimes they're like, I really need this. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, I'm not sure. And they're like, oh, well, I know why. and you'll know why too. And they're like, well, you know, and this is why we do what we do. It's because there is a lifeline. We can help, and that's what we do. But I just wanted to explain what is happening here in terms of how childhood trauma impacts our brains, how it impacts the way that we view the world, and then our relationship to worthiness. People who've experienced trauma more often than not have lower self-esteem. If you've experienced trauma, but you have grown up in an environment that you had at least one person that believed in you and viewed you, again, this is quantum mechanics, this is quantum physics, viewed you as a winner, that they saw you there. They saw you as a healthier, better version of yourself. You are one step ahead of everyone else was traumatized. So having a favorable viewer is really important. That's one of the things that I share with everybody. I view you as optimized. I see you there. It's one of those things like, and here's a question. Have you ever been in the presence of someone who believed in you so much, more than you've ever believed in yourself? They believed in you. That because of that, it could have been a teacher, could have been a parent, could have been a lover, could have been a friend, it could have been anything, a mentor, but they believed in you so much. Because of that, you changed. They saw you there even when you couldn't see yourself there. That's the power of a viewer. And so for us, for individuals that have experienced trauma in their childhood, you may not have experienced what that feels like. And so you are in a survival pattern around your worth, and that shapes the way that you interact with money. How does that show up? You may not be asking for what you're really worth in terms of exchanges and in terms of payment. You may even be avoidant of receiving payment. You may contract as you receive payment. You may be attracted to people who have scarcity mentality, people who are like, there's not enough of everything, which is not true at all. The world is extremely abundant. And here we're going to start now. Okay. So as I say these things, you may notice that your body's contracting or saying, no, that's registering as untruth. Why? Because the trauma creates a contraction in your body. If you've ever loved or trusted anybody in your life, your parents, caregivers, teachers, siblings, lovers, friends, your school, your government, your doctors, whoever, you trusted a person because you trusted them and loved them. They told you a lie, you accepted it. Whether it was an experience that was a lie, whether it was words that were lies. So someone saying, oh, you don't look good in that outfit, because you trust that person, because you trust them, you accept the statement, but your body contracts around it. There's a charge that becomes trauma. That's unresolved charges in your body. That's how we define trauma at the Institute with the supravagal method, right? You trust somebody, you love them, they tell you lies about yourself. The interaction may be a lie. If you grew up in a household with parents who didn't know what love is, they have their own childhood trauma. They just repeated the patterns of what they learned in their own childhood from their parents. And they think that that's love, even though deep down they know it's not, but they don't know any other way. There's no other behavioral pattern as an option for the system to say engage in, like, oh, I'll try doing this instead. It just kind of goes into autopilot. The way that the nerves kind of run is just kind of, it mirrors, you just upload and download the information. And your parents may have just really celebrated you and showered you with love when you completed a task. Other than that, they may have been really disconnected and cold. And you start to pattern, oh, that's how I get love, and that's where my worth is. And so you may not know what rest is. You may think that life has to be a struggle, and that feels good on some level, feels good in your system. And when you're resting, you may feel really guilty as a result of that. All of this is due to that patterning, right? That's childhood trauma. And and the invitation here, as you're feeling these things and you potentially feel contraction in your body, I'm inviting you to bring your fingers to one another. See where my thumb is touching right here, my index finger, the side of the nail. And I'm just holding it and breathing. You may take the fingers that are available and tap on your sternum. And remind yourself that the contraction that you feel is not the truth. It's not the truth, it's a lie. Until you feel your nervous system calm down. So step number one in healing your trauma to money is reframing your relationship to money. First, identifying, do you have secure attachment? If you're watching this video, more than likely you don't. So you have insecure attachment. If you have insecure attachment to money, more often than not, there's childhood stuff around worthiness. More often than not, you are potentially surrounding yourself also with people who are not viewing you optimized. That's okay. We're here to do that for one another. I view you optimized, and I'm going to coach you through this. So there are two versions of you in the quantum field right now that I want us to kind of like look at. The version of you that is the one that is the contracted version that has all of those lies embedded. And then there's a version of you that is completely optimized, that does not have those there. And because you're here and you're on this video, know that you're closer to the version of you that is optimized, because now you're recognizing this, because step number one is that you've stepped far enough out of this that you're able to see this. And that's like the bulk of the work done. So you're closer to the optimized version of yourself, and you're further away from this. And now we're able to look at it more objectively and start to identify where those lies are. So you're going to map up your childhood. Did you experience childhood trauma around worthiness? Do you struggle with your boundaries? If you struggle with your boundaries, here's a quick exercise for you. I want you to pick specifically tasks around your value and the way you interact with people. So who is your ideal client? Who is your ideal employer? Who's your ideal person that you engage with regards to money? by starting off with who they are not. So the people that make you feel contracted when you interact with them, people who don't pay you on time, or people who don't see your value, people who you don't enjoy their company when you're doing a service or an exchange with, those are the no's. The no's help you create a stronger yes. Once you're able to eliminate everything that you do not like, give yourself permission. This is really important because if you have childhood trauma, you may have experienced the lack of permission to go into your own expansion. You weren't allowed to. So the rules and containment was created through the behavior and the way that you were raised and the interactions you experienced. So this is where you say to yourself, I give myself permission. If I give myself permission, it's too hard for your system to believe because you're still too contracted that you don't have power, because that pattern from childhood makes you helpless and hopeless. It takes away your power. It makes you feel like you're not in control. Remember what I said about sovereignty and freedom earlier? Yeah. If that is too hard for your system is rejecting it, try speaking from the optimized self. Let the optimized self or somebody else that you, me, anybody, tell you, I give you permission. I give you permission to go there. You have permission to go there. Okay. And to explore what the expansiveness feels like. What is the excitation or something that makes you really excited in terms of how you're going to interact with money. So what makes me feel really excited is working with individuals who see my worth. We have fun together when we work. We all feel really good and really expansive, and we keep growing together, impacting the world in really wonderful ways. That excites me. That's like, yeah. That feels yes. That feels good. And that grows and grows and grows. And that feels really good. And as that feels good, I want to code this deeper. So if you're a TBM practitioner, you can go into any of the master points, or you can just tap right here, sternum. And what I want you to do is smile. And as you smile, I want you to also somatically bring your arms up into this V for victory. And as you do that, and I'm tapping my feet on the ground, as I do this, yes. Oh, I can't help but laugh, and it feels good. It feels good, it feels expansive, it feels good, and it feels expansive. Yes. Yes. So when we start to create the no, the invitation is to really elate into the yes, and elate into the yes. And as I do this, now we're going to be playing a little bit with the avatar. So the version of me that was creating the nose was a person that every time I felt the nose, I felt contraction around it. It created a version of me energetically as well. And the version of me that feels all the yeses, and I'm getting high on this, like just feels so good, is a very expanded version of myself. That's the version that I want to anchor into the cells of my body. I want to create a cellular memory. I want to create a mind-body connection. I want to create a psychosomatic connection to this sensation right now. And so I'm just going to hold. I'm going to go into spaces between my ribs. So when I work on these different points in between my ribs here, I'm also helping circulate oxytocin. And I'm creating a mind-body connection, and I'm telling my body to remember this, code this memory really strong. Let this be reminded in my system, become a very strong memory. And yes. And I'll keep saying yes to fortify it. So it's yes. Every time I feel it, it becomes a stronger yes. And I feel you there too. I see you there. We are all there. Yes. And I'm going to bring this yes now to bless our bank accounts, So I'm going to go in my mind's eye, and I'm going to open up two things. First one is I'm going to imagine or visualize me going on to my online banking, and all I'm going to do literally is just bring my hand onto my bank account. Now I'm kind of blessing it. What I'm going to do, which is really easy, I'm going to imagine that my bank account is in between both of my hands right here, and I'm just going to create a little bit of a spiral motion here. And again, it's yes, yes, yes. And I'm going to just keep growing and expanding it and filling it up with light and saying yes, yes, yes. And I bless you, I bless you. And yes, yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. And I see my eyes kind of squinted right there. Did you see that? That was a contraction around, like there's a part of my body that does not believe that. Ah, that's the clue. This is exactly what we're going to do. You take that and you're going to go and you're going to ask your body, close your eyes. Close your eyes. I'm going to ask my body. And again, my fingers come back here. I'm back to being plugged in. Saying hello to the consciousness within, the wisdom within me. And when I feel that roll in my belly or softening in my belly, where is it? Where is the contraction? And okay, so really interesting. It's all in my cranium. So that's where my body's telling me it is. So I'm just going to gently tap, tap, tap. And again, TVN practitioners, you can go on to master point, any master point you want. And then feel that sympathetic switch off. So turning off the fight or flight response in the body. Good. Mine just switched off. And I'm just, again, telling the body and connecting to the body right now. I'm safe. Okay, wow. And loosen the jaw, everybody. Most people with childhood trauma grind their teeth. Again, it's a fawning response, not being able to speak your truth, communicate your truth. So I feel it also in my jaw. Anyone who's had dental work, braces done, you're going to feel the contraction there too. I want you to allow your jaw to relax to whatever way or shape it wants to drop into. I'm going to sound this one out. Oh. Whatever sounds want to come through. So you can explore the different sounds that want to come through, explore moving your jaw. Okay, thank you. It feels much better. Okay, you're going to bless your bank account. You're going to keep blessing it with your hands. Creating safety. The whole point of this exercise is doing two things. One is to create safety and creating more safety in your body. When you imagine your bank account, we want you to feel safety and expansion, not contraction. Second one is I'm wanting you to focus on your relationship with money itself. Like an ATM machine. I want you to go and I want you to bless every time you pay money, every time you withdraw cash from an ATM machine, every time you pay for a transaction. If you're feeling contraction in your body, this is where I'm going to invite you to breathe, relax, relax, relax as much as possible and get into a space of blessing. I bless you. I bless this money. I bless this money. And if you're not feeling it and this is registering as a lie in your body, figure out where that contraction is, go into that point in your body, hold it and breathe until you feel more safety around it, that the contraction starts to dissipate. Another thing that you can do is starting to actually use money, like notes, like physical money. The higher denomination, the better. And you can take it, and an easy way for you to create safety is to hold it while you are doing an activity that makes you feel good. Releasing oxytocin in a way that makes you feel good, and to start and create a relationship, a chemical relationship in your body that when you see the money, you feel safety and love. And that is one of the fastest ways for you to change your relationship to money. We just want to change, in essence, the same way we do with recoding your childhood memories. Everyone can have a happy childhood. That statement, right? How do we do that? We recode the information so the neurotransmitter that is responsible for the feeling changes. The information remains the same, but the feeling changes. So you can make peace with things that were uncomfortable. You can register that you've survived them safely, especially with oxytocin. And that's what we want to do with our relationship to money. We want to increase our self-worth, our self-esteem. That starts with creating a lot of boundaries around us, figuring out what the no is so we have a stronger yes, getting into that expanded state of being, working with your childhood trauma, creating these tools around desiring. Do you desire? It's so powerful to even just say, you know what, I desire and I choose a safe attachment to money. Money's got my back. Money's here. Money loves me, cares for me, is excited to be around me, wants to get to know me, wants us to explore a more expanded relationship together. Can you say yes to that? For all the TVM practitioners, go into your oxytocin protocol and have money on hand as you do it. Start to code the relationship, recode it. So this is one of the things that I invite you to do. If for those of you that are into energy and quantum work, you can also focus on creating a stronger avatar in the field. This is what a lot of people who work in the field of, these 5, 6, 7 figure coaching type mentorships and programs, they all work with the avatar in the field. And I'll give you just like a quick little snippet of what that kind of work looks like. Is you are in physics, this is not woo-woo, this is science. There's a version of us, you and I as particles. We are disintegrating and dissolving into the field of information, where time does not exist, but everything exists. All the information that ever existed is present. Ever was, ever will be, is there. And what we are literally is a technology that is conscious, that is disintegrating into this field of information, uploading and downloading information and coming back as we recode. All of our experiences, literally our memories, is information that we pour into that field. The stronger the memory, which are the ones that are coded with love and happiness and joy and peace, make you a stronger player in the field, i.e. you're able to pull in the things that you desire at a stronger force, a gravitational pull, because what strings us all together is pure consciousness. It's love. And so there's the desire in the field is to discover higher versions of ourselves or better versions of ourselves. That's the evolutionary drive to get there, to become stronger, faster, quicker, you name it, to attain the light faster and become more efficient at it. And so your efficiency is literally driven from the strength of your neurotransmitters and the strength of your central nervous system. And so you want to become a strong player in the field that can change your life, learn how to master your nervous system, and you're there. Yeah, there are all these different masters and these different programs around tuning into these different versions of yourself that have been able to attain this, that, and the other. And when people, for instance, ask me, well, how do you do it? It literally is the work that I teach you all with the triple vagal method. That's the foundation of it. There are versions of you that are on standby ready to teach you. There's the optimized version of you. There's a version of you that is very comfortable with money. And the invitation is to tune into that. Again, the avatar, there's an avatar of your version right now. So the version of you in existence right now has an avatar that is there in the field as well. So there's a version of you that is in the field gathering information. The most beautiful thing about you being in the field is that reality is different than this one. And that one you can play with at a faster speed. See, one of the markers of consciousness is imagination, and you have imagination the same way I do. However, the particles that are assembled in this density are running a story or a narrative that is programmed based on your nervous system, all of the stories and the contractions that you have accepted, or the lies, what I call the lies, the untruths, these traumas that get stuck in our body. And they influence our hardware and our software and what we're looking for in the field. So the version of you in the field has more potentiality of change at a more rapid state than this version, even though that version is not as strong as this version. So this is why I really highly emphasize, go and do your central nervous system work, release the stories, do not be attached to them. Here's an example. Somebody can say, hey, Madge, I don't know what to do. I'm in this situation, and the person that I'm with is, I discovered that, one, we're not having sex anymore, and I'm really not happy about that, and I can't have a conversation. I don't know what's going on. I've bottled it all up because I have self-esteem issues, and maybe it's my body's changed, and maybe I'm just not young enough, pretty enough, or whatever the stories fueled by the lies. This is another masterclass, but I'll just give you a glimpse of it. And then I discovered also that my partner now has, this strong friendship with this other woman. Maybe they're having an affair, maybe he's getting sex over there, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what to do. I feel really lost. I've invested a whole bunch of money with this person. If I leave, I may lose that, and my heart may be broken. And maybe because of all the stories that this person's telling themselves about them not being the prettiest or the youngest or whatever. They're like, it's going to be really hard for me to find a new partner. Maybe I should just stick it out, and whatever. That story makes a lot of assumptions. It makes a lot of assumptions. It assumes that the person stopped having sex because they're having sex elsewhere. It's assuming that this person's insecurities are the reason why the behavior changed. It's making a lot of assumptions without any clarity. And it's fueled by stories that are already in the body, contractions in the body, the survival mechanisms, right? Instead of saying, hey, dear partner, I really want to connect with you. I just noticed that we're not experiencing this kind of intimacy anymore. Like, would you want to have a conversation? What's going on? Oh, hey, dear beloved, I really crave connection with you, and it's not happening, and I'm feeling a little insecure or unmet in that way. And and I'm also curious, like, does this have any relationship to you spending time with this person? It could be like spending time with this person because this person's potentially offering consultation to grow their mutual business together. It could be the reason this person does not have intimacy anymore, or doesn't have desire, because they're going through a hormonal change in their body. It could be that they're not feeling good about themselves. There's so much that assumption that happened in the narrative around the story that created a very narrow reality. And that is driven by the information that was in this person's body. See, the version of us in the field is open to all potentiality. Anything and everything is possible. An entire life can change in a second. And that's the reality. That's the truth of everything. But what is stopping us is whatever we're holding on to in our bodies and the attachment we have to stories. And so right now, if you have money trauma, you may have an attachment to a story around that. And the attachment could be something that your society or your culture has also embedded in you, that being, say, poor or living hand to mouth or whatever is glorified. It means you're a martyr, and a martyr means you're going to go to heaven, or you're synonymous with being holy or whatever. And none of that is true. None of it is true. And again, if you have contraction around me saying that, tune into your body and discover where is that, and hold that, and start to pump love into your system, start to pump oxytocin into your system, start to at least identify this is an untruth. This is not real. And you're more than halfway there. Remember, you, by being here, you're further away from the version of you that is traumatized and it has unhealthy attachment, and you're closer to the version of you that is optimized. Allow the optimized you to view you. Allow the optimized you to come in. The avatar of you in the field, find the avatar, the version of you. Can you tune in? it may be difficult for you to feel it if you're not used to this within yourself, but can you tune in to maybe somebody else that is already really successful financially, that has really secure attachment? Can you tune into them and bless them? Because when you bless them, you code that loving, safe presence of that oxytocin, serotonin, even dopamine into your field. Get onto your social media, get onto your connections, find people that you know that are very successful financially, find them and bless them, tune into them, feel it, and say, wow, I bless you. This is beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And if you can't feel it fully in your body, go into where are the contractions and work through them. Go and work with somebody that can help you erase these contractions in your body, recode them with favorable neurotransmitters. You can do the tools that I gave you today, your V, you're tuning in between your ribs, breathing, tapping, using TVM. Yeah, you have a choice. You choose. Who do you want to identify with? And if it's a no, really put it in the no. And then start to get excited about the yes and what version of you are anticipating and seeing yourself moving into. This is one of those things that I've come to recognize recently with a lot of people that I have had the honor and privilege to work with. There is no reason, the sum of it and the gist of it is this: there's no reason for anybody to live a contracted life around money. There's so much circulation around for everybody. But it's a matter of you believing that. Like, can you really believe it? And if you can't, that means someone planted some really big lies in your body, and it's time for us to change that. That will help you figure out what your genius is. That will help you figure out how you can circulate that. And your genius could just be like, I enjoy living life. There are a lot of people in the world today that are catered for, supported financially simply to have a happy life. You don't have to be doing anything to have this. And I love you and thank you for spending this time with me today. I view you optimized the same way I know you view me.